Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and it is time to review the Play Arts Kai Arkham City Batman figure, which I was super excited for because I really liked, as you saw in my top 10 figure review for 2012, I really liked the Arkham Asylum version of Batman, and this was supposed to be an updated version with the lighter gray and the brighter blue for the cape and outfit, which, if you know me, you know I prefer the gray and blue Batman, even though it's the less practical color scheme. So this one was perfect, and it had the fancier belt, which I was really excited for, and it had some new accessories. I didn't think they were going to get rid of anything other than the extra cape piece, but they kind of did. So we'll get into that once we go through it a little bit. But for now, let's talk about the height. He's a little hunched over right now, but roughly 9.5 inches tall. Just for comparison purposes, I'll grab Catwoman real quick. When she's fully straight up and down, she stands just under the top of his head. And like I said, he's hunched a little bit and his legs are spread apart a little bit. So I think the scale's pretty good. If you stand him straight up, he's a little bit taller, obviously. So the scaling's good enough for me, at least. It might not be exact, but it's fine for display purposes. So anyway, this guy is top-notch again, just like most Play Arts figures. They did do the glossy thing a little bit with the part of the cowl that's around his neck and the shoulders and the head especially. It's not as bad as it looks on camera. He's not that shiny, and you don't even really notice it on the face itself, but it is there a little bit. He might look cross-eyed, but if you look closely, he's actually not. It's just the way he's kind of grimacing. So it's not bad there. There's really no gloss anywhere else. You have some shine on the metal parts, and the cape has a little bit of a shine to it, but it's really not that bad, and it's perfectly tolerable in my opinion. Let's talk accessories before we do anything else. So he's got this head here, and the last one didn't come with an alternate head if I remember correctly. I don't think it did anyway. And he's got an alternate head here with the frowny face, which looks okay. It could be a little bit better in the mouth department, I think, but it's okay. He's got one open hand for his left hand here. Really good sculpt work on it. Good paint work as well. He's got one trigger finger hand for his right hand, which is the one you have to use to hold the batarang to, because he can't really hold it. And even this hand's not the best for that. It just kind of slides in there. So he's got that. He's got two fist hands, one for each side. So if memory serves, it's the same set of hands as the first one. I don't have the first one anymore. I wish I did, but I sold it to a buddy of mine who really wanted it. So he's got 4 hands total. Then he's got this grappling hook line. I don't remember what it's called technically from the game, but he's got this line launcher. It's not the line launcher, whatever. It's painted well, sculpted well. It looks like the two halves of the sculpt are kind of offsides. They don't quite line up, you can see right there. But it's still okay, and this part comes out, so you can use it without one at all, or you can snap in this one, which has the extended piece right here. And that little kink in there, that's from the packaging. It will come out. This is a softer plastic, so you can get that out if you want to. It's not bendable, though. I really, really wish they made it bendable. And it wouldn't be hard to do that. Just take a black plastic wire tie from a figure and use that instead. But it didn't come that way, so it's a little bit of a bummer. I was really hoping for that. But what are you going to do? Excuse me. So anyway, let's get into the figure itself. Let's just get the thing out of the way that's bothering me more than anything. It's overall mostly the exact same figure. You can see it's just about the exact same. There are some tweaks here and there. Here's the thing that really bothers me, the cape. Now this is a little issue leading into a big issue. On this side, the cape's really short and pretty much traditional looking. It just comes to the point and hangs right there. This side has this real long piece on the end. And I know that they put it there to make it look more dynamic, like it's blowing, or so you can pose them and it looks longer on this side, but it just looks weird. It's really not something that I'm going to worry about. It doesn't bother me, but it is something that kind of stood out for me because it just looks weird. It wouldn't be like that. It's huge compared to all the other peaks. So it just looks weird to me. That's not the big issue. The big issue is the cape on this guy is not poseable. I don't mind that it doesn't have an extra piece, but I really wanted it to be poseable. These are just glued in 2 blocks on his back. So you can't pose it at all. It still has the split in it, which I think is weird, because if you can't pose it, what's the point? It should just be one solid piece. It doesn't look terrible because it lines up pretty well, but it's still not poseable. So that is really a big letdown, and really the reason I wish I had my first one still, so I could have them both. It still looks good, and you can still pose them pretty well, but that's going to be an issue if you're trying to pose him, because anytime you bend his legs or anything, the cape ends up hitting the floor, and it's not that soft to wear. It's just going to kind of droop. It's going to hold him up. So it's a bit of an issue for me, and I don't like that they took that feature away. That was kind of a cool feature. So if you're looking for a poseable cape, this is not the one for you. The only posability comes in the shoulder parts that have a hinge on them. But because this droops over the shoulder a pretty good amount, you're not really going to get the arm up too high, because this is going to be hindering it. You can get it up there a little bit and kind of just keep forcing it to stay up, and you can get it up there, but it's not a huge amount. So it's really kind of I gotta stop saying kind of. It's really a letdown for me that they don't have this part being poseable. It's a big deal. It does look good otherwise, but I really wanted that to be poseable. Alright, let's talk about the articulation otherwise. The rest of the figure I'm pretty much good with. The thighs are still a little bit too big, a little bit too long, and a little bit too thick. It makes them look a little bit weird, but not too much to be a problem. Okay, so the head is on like a double ball peg, so he's got a ton of motion in the head. You can really pose it however you want to. There's a little bit of a gap, of course, when you pose it some ways, but you can see the ball peg is a big one at the neck, and then it goes up, and there's another one in the top, or in the bottom of the head, so you can really pose it however you want to, and you won't have any trouble. Looking up is a little bit of an issue. That's as much as you're going to get. It's probably enough for most posing, but maybe a little better. It would have been okay. Again, the neck is poseable, but you're not going to get a huge range of motion out of it, just enough to make it look a little bit more natural when you turn his head, I guess. And it doesn't have much range, really, at all. Enough just to add a little bit of realism to it, so that's okay with me. Excuse me. Torso is on a double ball peg again, but since the cape is glued on to the top part of the torso, you're not going to get a whole lot of posing done in the torso region because you have no range, no movement. So that's a bit of an issue. But it is there, and it doesn't have that huge shelf like the other one did. The other one stuck out really far on the upper abdomen. This one doesn't have that, so that's okay with me. And then it's the standard upside down T-peg for the lower abdomen and the hips. So this part twists, and you can shift it and do whatever you want with it. So there's plenty of range of motion for that, and it's pretty good, I think. The crotch piece is floating again. It's a separate piece, and it's a soft plastic, so it won't get in the way really of any articulation. Got a frog in my throat. I have to keep clearing it. The hips are ratcheted in every direction, so when you move them forward and back, that's ratcheted, and then side to side is ratcheted as well. So it's a really tight ratchet, so you won't have too much trouble with that. Posing him isn't going to be too much of an issue. And it's pretty good proportions. The hips are still pretty far out there compared to the abdomen. It makes his chest and shoulders look kind of small. Not so much so that it's an issue, but if you're just kind of looking at it like this, his thighs are pretty big. Again, it's not a real big deal, but it is something worth noting. And then you can rotate the hips on that joint as well. Get the hand out of the way. So pretty good range of motion for that. The knees are double jointed again. They're still a little bit awkward, but I don't know if they're different or not from the first one, to be honest. I don't remember, but I'm okay with them. All of the Play Arts knees are a little bit weird, and these ones are not as bad as I've seen in the past. So if you're worried about the knees, don't be too much on this guy. They still work pretty well and look okay. The ankle is that that ball disc that's ratcheted, so it swivels in the ankle and in the foot, and it's ratcheted. And then he has this cut joint like the old Soda Street Fighter figures, which I don't really care for, and I don't really understand why they put it in there, because you can achieve the ankle rocker using the ball peg. So I don't really get why they put that cut joint in there. It doesn't really need to be in there. But it's okay. I do wish this part was connected to the foot or to the ball disc even, which wouldn't have worked as well, but to the foot, because most of the time it's sticking up too high. Once you pose the foot, that part sticks up, so it doesn't look as good as it could. It's still okay though, and since he's a little back heavy, you're more than likely going to have the foot at an angle, so it's not so much of a big deal. And he's got the sculpted bottoms of his boots. The shoulders have the butterfly joints, if we can get in there to show you. So they do come forward, even though you're not going to get a whole lot out of it. And that's on a ball peg, so the shoulder itself moves inside that butterfly joint. And then the shoulder has the disc motion as normal. So full range of motion in the shoulder, bicep swivel. And then the elbow is the same as the ankle, so it swivels in the bicep and in the forearm and is ratcheted. And then it's the same joint for the wrist, it's just a lot smaller. So full range of motion for that. The hands pop off fairly easily. It's a little trickier to get them on all the way. The open hands never want to go on quite all the way, but the fists do no problem. Paintwork and sculpt work on this figure is really good. The sculpt, it's got the texture just about everywhere. Probably is everywhere, not counting the joints. The paintwork is on par. It could have used a little more shading on this side. There's almost no shading on this side and a good amount over here. But it's not something that's going to really bother me too much. But there is shading throughout, airbrush style shading. The cape has all kinds of shading throughout it. Hopefully that's showing up okay. The gold is done well. The trunks are sculpted really well. And this checkerboard texturing throughout the entire thing, I don't even know how they do that. If somebody's actually doing that by hand or if a machine does it or what, I don't know. But it's really good. It's throughout the entire figure. The armor pieces have a little bit of a craggy look to them. Little rivets in there. Great texture on the hands, little knuckle protectors and that sort of thing. The leg armor is just like the forearm armor. And then the boots have some nice details throughout them as well. So it looks great. It's a really nicely sculpted, nicely painted figure. Could be better in some areas, but it's not up to the point where I'm going to worry about it. And it's still my favorite Batman figure that I have. And even if I still had the old one, I'd still pick this one over it because I really like this color scheme better than the darker colors. I love the lighter gray with the blue. So I'm really happy with it. And overall, I recommend it. I think it's a great figure. I wish the elbow joints matched the suit. I wish the cape was bendable. Really, those are the two main complaints I have. Everything else is more than live-withable. So, there it is, guys. This is the Play Arts Kai Arkham City Batman figure. I recommend it. I think you should go get it. And then I'll show you the Catwoman figure in the next review, so stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching, guys. And in the meantime, keep collecting.